Hello and welcome back to another episode of the British and Irish Eagles podcast. It's been a few weeks since I've been on the podcast. Richard, I saw, was sat in my seat last week, Phil, as you guys got to discuss the goings on. The Philadelphia Eagles and this offseason continues to have twists and turns. This is episode 6 of season 7, which feels mad to say, and we have some news to be talking about here, Phil, as we gear up for the draft in Pittsburgh next week. But before we get into that, how the devil are you, sir? I know you've house moves and a bit of illness my side, and we've had some breaks and whatnot. How are you feeling as we stand here today, sir?
Yeah, I feel the best or the healthiest I have ever done in about 6-7 weeks. It's been a constant stream of germs, illnesses. Those who have one or multiple kids out there will definitely understand where I'm coming from, that you never know where one illness ends and another begins, but it literally feels that since the turn of March, I have just been ill and I was getting really down in the dumps. But Monday, turned a corner, back into the swing of things, feeling good, got you back on the pod. Everything's going in the right direction, and the draft is like I said, creeping up on us. 2 weeks away. It's crazy. I'm looking forward to it, but I feel like we've done nothing to prepare for it.
I know. Well, obviously, you're not the only person who's been looking to move house. Mick has also been moving house, which is why we haven't seen so many of the road to the draft. Unfortunately, life gets in the way sometimes. What can I say? This isn't our job. We don't get paid to do this. So, yeah. But listen, it's good to be back in the hot seat. It's good to be speaking to you all listening in. And just to give you an idea of the agenda that we're going to go through today, we're going to talk about the Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni annual pre-draft press conference, which was literally only a few hours ago. Feels like we're getting an emergency podcast in, like some of the regular paid podcasts do. We're going to talk about the insider controversy, which is Diana Russini and the A.J. Brown rumors and the Mike Vrabel pictures that have been swirling around the internet through people who aren't even fans of the NFL have been seeing this. This has been a world news story controversy, which has actually only had breaking news in the last 30, 45 minutes. So we may be the first people to comment on this breaking news, which we will get to momentarily. And then we will talk about the Tavian Wicks, let's call him Tay Wicks trade last week. I wondered how long it would be until we saw a Green Bay Packer wide receiver suiting up in Kelly green, a different shade of green than they're used to in Green Bay this year coming, and it looks like the Eagles have decided Tay Wicks is the guy that they wanted to make a move for, and we can talk about how Howie and Sirianni spoke about Wicks during the conference today, and also what our thoughts are on what that means for the Eagles in terms of their draft that they're going into now. As obviously Hollywood Brown has already been picked up a wide receiver, Darius Cooper, and we know is hoping to take a step forward this year. And obviously Devontae Smith is there, and A.J. Brown is still an Eagle, as Harry Roseman was at pains to remind us during the press conference earlier on today. So that's what we got in store for you. I might have a little bit to say on the Jalen Hurts, Tim McManus, ESPN article, just to give a couple of give me 60 seconds on that before we wrap up the podcast at the end as well. But yeah, lots to be talking about, lots of controversy, which we know the fans of Philadelphia listening to WIP and the Fanatic and all other radio stations will love, and the beat writers who report on it will also love. So yeah, without any further ado, Phil, why don't we get into the Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni press conference today? First off, I just want to touch on, they were asked about Jalen Hurts and about the article that Tim McManus co-wrote a couple of weeks ago for ESPN, citing a number of insiders inside the NovaCare complex, claiming that Jalen was hard to coach, and that the system was built around him. He wanted a system built around him. I've heard a lot of different opinion and commentary pieces about this. One being, if the Eagles are going to be so successful and the offensive coordinator is going to be changing every year, depending on whether they do a good job and they're fired, a bad job and they're fired, or a good job and they're hired, then maybe you do have to build around a quarterback who is the one constant, versus, Joe Burrow doesn't like to play action. Peyton Manning for the Colts didn't like motion pre-snap, and all of these quarterbacks have a system that they prefer to play in. We can go down a rabbit hole, and I know you guys, talked about this last week. But just to give you an update on what Howie Roseman said today, he said they have a lot of problems that they're always looking to address. One of those problems is not being honest and open with their players, and is talking to their players about what they expect from them and what they've seen from them. And off the back of that, he thought that article was both unfair and unfortunate, although he understands that that's what sells newspapers this year. So, a coy response from Howie. But Phil, thoughts on that? Thoughts on that response from Howie and the way in which he verbalized the fact that we don't hide away from speaking to players about how we feel. What do you think that means? What's Howie trying to get at there?
I think it kind of adds credence to probably every angle of the story. Like, he's not denying it flat out, saying this is a hit piece. I know that's what kind of the angle we took, a couple of weeks ago, just reacting on the last week's pod. But he's kind of admitting, he's like, there's obviously stuff that happens. We're not doing everything we can for the players. That's where it's kind of originating from. And things just get blown out of proportions. He's hinting on that, saying, it sells newspapers because, the truth doesn't sell the newspaper. It's what the truth is, exaggerated, elaborated upon opinions, and what people think it means is what actually sells it, like drawing conclusions from it. So he's kind of doing a really good job, in my opinion, from my self-comfort as an Eagles fan point of view. I feel like he's not lying to me. I don't feel like he's trying to talk to me like I'm an idiot. And I feel like he's saying, well, hey, this has come from somewhere. Clearly, we're not doing what we should be doing. So it also suggests to me that they're aware of the problem and they're going to try and work on it, which is another thing. You just want to, you don't mind that there are problems. No one expects perfection. But what you want to be doing is, like, imagine if all our politicians were a little bit more like Howie at the moment. We'd probably have a few less things going on right now, because at least that little bit of, that balance, that perfect middle ground of honesty, but also candidness, helps to sort of make people feel like, I can believe what the information that I'm being told, whether it is 100% or true or not. We all got our opinions.
It's a very good point. About feeling respected as a fan or as a journalist or as a commentator by hearing that response, not having the ridiculous fake news angle to coin a particular politician, and how he certainly doesn't see himself as godlike, although he is a wizard, as we know. I agree. It was very good. It was a very, very good way to douse fire, I thought, on the article. A very mature way.
I don't think you want to douse fire on articles.
No.
You probably want to put water on it.
Douse water on the fire that the article calls. Very good. No, you definitely don't want to douse fire. Can you douse fire? I guess liquid fire. Yes. It was a very good way of dousing water on the fire that article for sure caused. And I thought a very mature way of dealing with it, as you kind of alluded to there, like not shying away from the fact that, franchises like the Eagles aren't perfect. They have to deal with so many difficult scenarios and parameters and personalities and media and fans and expectation and financial constraints and it's quite refreshing, actually, to have someone turn around and go, we're not perfect. We're constantly working on getting better. We're going to fumble. We're going to fumble the ball every now and again, but we're going to make sure we win the turnover battle. and that's what the Eagles as a organization tries to do, right? They get things wrong, whether it's in the draft, whether it's in free agency, whether it's in personnel, whether it's in coaching decisions. But in the main, they get more right than they do wrong. And I think, winning the turnover battle in terms of decision making for the Eagles is as important as the Eagles is winning the turnover battle during a game in the season to win the game. So yeah, look, I'm feeling very good about it, like you are. Appreciate the grown up, mature way he approached it. He talked about Tay Wicks. They talked something I didn't know, that they've had an eye on him for a while, so it doesn't feel like this was a knee jerk Mannion hire. Did that have something to do with it? Of course it does. He mentioned that. He talked about the coaches coming into the building and the cohesion that has to be formed between taking their opinion on some things and having their own opinions on some things, and that's going to be players, coaches, and schemes. Talked about him being explosive at the top of the route. Talked about having very excited about having him in the building, and something that's been talked about a little bit on our podcast recently, which was interesting to hear Howie say out loud, which was that one of the biggest goals this year was getting more depth at the wide receiver position. Now, I think that stems from two specific areas. I think it's fairly clear. One area is the obvious impending AJ Brown post-June decision, although something could happen in the draft if someone doesn't get what they want in the draft and they pay enough. But the impending post-June 1 decision for AJ Brown is obviously a reason why they need to get more depth to wide receiver, because it's not a great wide receiver class, nor is it a good running back class. So that's one reason it's stemming from, but it's also stemming from the scheme that Man is used to running. I mean, the Green Bay Packers had a plethora of wide receivers in the last couple of years. An embarrassment of riches, really. It's hard to pinpoint to say so-and-so could be a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3, because there was 5 wide receivers who were all demanding the ball at various points in time, depending on injuries last year. So that's clearly something
they needed that depth because there was a few injuries as well, though.
They did, but those injuries weren't ever present. Like, I know Watson was injured before the season started, but they still. If you look at the amount of tight ends they had and wide receivers, they had like the passing, receiving weapons as a whole for Green Bay compared to the depth of the Eagles is stark. And I've said for a couple of years now, like I want to see Jalen throwing the ball to more people. I don't like we have to just throw it to AJ and Devontae and Goddard. It feels too predictable for me. Like, I want to see more of the Mahomes spreading it around to everyone on the field. The Josh Allen, because he kind of has to spread it around to everyone on the field. So I feel pretty good about that, and I feel good about the Wicks pickup. I'm not jumping around thinking Wicks could be a wide receiver 1, which is what some people were claiming, and I'm not even sure I fully agree that Wicks is definitely wide receiver 2 ahead of Hollywood Brown. Everyone seems to be saying that. Not entirely sure I completely buy that.
I think it's based off the contracts alone. I think people are just reading into the numbers more than anything else. But yeah.
Yeah, but we've seen bigger and more productive seasons from Hollywood Brown in his career than we have Wicks.
Yeah, it has to be said that I think that from the Packers' perspective, like, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with anything you said about the pickup at all, but I think the Packers had a plethora of riches. I think they've decided the ones they want to keep and the ones they didn't. So that's telling that Wicks, Dubs are players that they didn't want to keep, and they've got a healthy bounty for Dubs, and they've got Wicks off the books, so now they've got Golden, Watson, and the other guy. But anyway, I'm just trying not to get too excited about it, although I do like what I saw. He's had one exceptional game versus the Lions last year, 2 touchdowns, 97 yards. As a 3, I'm perfectly happy. Jaden Reed, that was it. So he had an exceptional game. So we know that the talent is there, but it feels very similar to the Jayon Dotson pickup of a couple of years ago. Pick up a guy, but and unusually give him a short extension, because he's not just going to be a season rental. So they obviously are excited about him, and there is a chance that he comes in and can fill 3. And it feels very much a fence hedging your bets. They do like him. They're bringing in some depth, but he could be the 2 or 3 if AJ does leave, and if he doesn't, then we've got a really solid depth in that wide receiver room. So I like the move from a fence position because it feels very much looking at all angles and planning for all outcomes, and it doesn't indicate too much about AJ Brown, but it also helps. It's perfectly balanced in that regard, and I love it from that regard. And the pickup itself, the 2026 fifth round pick and the 2027 sixth round pick, both picks were gained in the last 12 months. One was by trading back in the third round of last year's draft with the Falcons. Admittedly, they did get Xavier Watts, a very, very strong safety in that draft. And this 2027 sixth round pick is actually from the Packers themselves, and it's what we got for Darren Kennard when we let him go at the end of camp last year. So, ignoring the people that we've let go or missed out on, those 2 picks it's free money, and the extension isn't a whole huge amount. So Howie yet again has brought in a piece that could potentially be very high ceiling and be very useful depending on the outcomes of this offseason. But at the same time, we've not given up our own picks, hard-earned capital. We got these capitals because teams were just trading like crazy last year, and Howie loves that. And he'll do the same again this year. We haven't got any 7th-round pick, but you guarantee we'll be coming out with at least one 7th-round pick or a 7th-round pick in the trade backs from all the stuff that's going to be going on as usual. It's Howie's season, baby. But finally, yeah, like he's had 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns in 3 years with the Packers. So similar stats to sort of Jahan Dotson, not sort of anything crazy, but he's definitely got the potential there. He's only 23, so a 1-year extension, $12.5 million. All these signs point to being high upside potentially, but low risk if it doesn't end up working out.
Yeah.
I know we flipped the agenda.
No, it's good. I was just listening to some of your points. He's 24. He turns 25 in June. So he's a little older, but he's young. I mean, he is still very young. I think I'm on the other side of the fence, and I hope I'm wrong here. I mean, you know how positive I am normally about Eagles picking up players. I'm not really that blown away by the Tay Wicks move. I think a $12.5 million extension is relatively rich for the production we've seen out of him so far. Now you can make the argument that there was too many mouths to feed, and with less mouths to feed, he will do better. And clearly, Mannion would not have hired him if he didn't think he'd be a good fit for Jalen and a good fit for the scheme that he wants to run. So, with that in mind, I feel good about it. But I'm not jumping off my seat with excitement here. I certainly don't think it changes the Eagles' potential for going wide receiver in round 1. I think that still is a potential. I don't think they will. I think
that's off the table.
You think it's completely off the table with this trade? Really?
Not necessarily with this trade alone, and it's not moved the needle, but just things are transpiring. And I said it in last week, the previous pod, was that it affects the ability to trade AJ unless they are 100% certain, and they've already got an agreement in place with the Patriots, and they said, okay, well, we're going to hold you to this trade deal after the June 1st deadline, whatever it is. We're going to pick up a wide receiver, but you're still going to give us this capital. Then that's the only way I see it happening, because if the Eagles take a wide receiver in the first round, it is going to throw too much chaos. And it's going to impact the ability for Howie to get a good deal for AJ Brown, regardless of how many people, if it's just the Patriots or not, regardless of this controversy with Diane Russini or not. It just seems like such an un-Howie thing to do, to basically cut off one of his hands when he's trying to make a deal with someone. It just seems something exceptional.
What if AJ Brown is used?
I'm not saying
what if AJ Brown is used in a trade during the draft to move up or get an additional first round pick?
But again, that would then come into the pre-June 1st, and then the Eagles will be taking a huge dead cap hit this coming year, and it would have to be a super deal. So that's what I'm saying, is that if somehow the Patriots said, look, we'll agree to do this deal, handshake deal, you pick up your wide receiver, we'll pick up AJ after June, and everyone walks away happy, or one of the top 10 wide receiver, top top 3 wide receivers in the draft drops, and it's like Howie's just like, I've got to take this guy. That is the only way it happens. So
I think that can happen. I think that could happen. I think one of the top 3 wide receivers could fall to 18, 19, and I think Howie could trade up. I disagree. I don't think
you've got to be sure that he's going to be get rid of AJ quality.
I don't necessarily think they're mutually exclusive of each other. I think that the Eagles could pick up a first round wide receiver and keep AJ Brown this year. I don't necessarily think that's off the table. I think the Eagles would be planning for the long term, and what Howie always says in the press conferences is you never know what your team is going to look like in a year or two. So you never want to pass up on a chance to make your team better. He was good at saying that today in today's press conference. So if a wide receiver falls that he thinks is a game changer, I mean, you can also talk about, is it S7e, the tight end? I look at wide receivers and tight ends as similar. If you're looking at in the first round, you're looking at them as receiving threats. You're not looking at them as a receiver or a tight end. Right, if you're going to pick one up in the first round, you're not picking him up for his blocking ability, right? You're picking him up for his receiving threat and his receiving abilities. So, maybe I'll throw S7e in there. It is S7e, right? I'm not getting the name wrong here.
Kenyon S7e, yeah.
Kenyon S7e, yeah. I'll throw S7e in there alongside, the top 3, 4 wide receivers. I think Howie could absolutely still go for a wide receiver because the Patriots, there's going to be teams who need a wide receiver, either post June 1 at the end of this draft when they don't get someone, or via injury, early in the season or mid-season. I don't think the Eagles will let AJ Brown hold them to ransom. If they have a player they think they can pick up in the first round, that's wide receiver, then I can absolutely see the Eagles going, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, do you have a wide receiver 3? Devontae Wicks is just another body like he was in Green Bay, another receiving threat. We only got Goddard really as a receiving threat. Calcaterra maybe, So no, I don't know. And some of these wide receivers are big and tall as well, so they can act as a quasi tight end, big body receiver in the end zone. So I don't know. I see where you're coming from. I can't disagree with your thought process and your reasoning. I think it's a very astute point. But I don't know. I think I disagree on that. I think wide receiver's still on the table.
Fair enough. I mean, that's why we love the draft, because anything can happen, and it's kind of nice going into the draft knowing that.
How many turkeys are you going to put on it? Why don't we do a PHLY here?
Well, I said less than 5% chance, so I'm saying
you're talking 3 turkeys. We should use a different word for turkeys. What can we use? We don't want to be plagiarizing PHLY here. What can we use instead of turkeys? What about rhinos?
Loch Lomond.
Bottles of Loch. How many bottles? All right. How many bottles of Loch Lomond are we putting on this?
I think it's. I'm gonna go with like 5. Okay, maybe not less than 5, but I'm saying it's gonna be like 8 or 9 bottles.
8 bottles.
Lomond that the Eagles will take a wide receiver in the first round. But because there's just too much uncertainty there's too many factors. Like if something happens between now and the draft, then that will change.
I think there's a 1 in 4 shot. Give me 26 give me 26 bottles. 26 bottles of Loch Lomond.
What are you fiddling with, by the way?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my watch. I shall stop.
It's
probably very annoying.
Everyone's going, thank you, Phil.
All right. As we stand right now, who are the top 4 receivers for the Eagles week 1? Everything taking into account, who are the top 4? You don't need to give me a name if we draft one. You can say a draft person, but who are the top 4 receivers for the Eagles on day 1 as you stand right now? What would you say? Did you lose me?
Sort of lost you, but I think I've got you back in. But
I got you back. All right.
Right?
Yeah, you got the question right. Who is your? And he's gone. This is a classic Restream podcast.
Yeah.
So who is your top 4 receivers, wide receivers, not tight end, receivers on day one for the Eagles? Who do you think they are as you stand right now?
Well, Smith's going to be here. I think.
Obviously, I'll give you Smith and Wicks.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be sort of. I think AJ's still going to be here.
Do you?
I flip flop so much about it at this moment in time, based on the Diana Russini stuff, which we'll get onto in a minute. I feel like the strength in the anticipation that the Eagles are going to trade AJ Brown to the Patriots after June is not as certain as it was, and I feel like there's nothing really other than that reporting. Again, we'll get on to it in a minute. That has really indicated there's no other beat reporters. There's no other real NFL buzz around it that hasn't come from that situation. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's no more certainty that AJ Brown is getting traded than isn't at the moment, other than the fact that after June the 1st and nothing's happened so far, it will become a lot cheaper. So I'm going to go with AJ Brown still being here, Devontae Smith, Hollywood Brown, and Dontavian Wicks as our top four. We're also going to have Kenyon Sadiq in the room. We're going to have Dallas Goddard and maybe even a tight end 3 in Zach Ertz coming back.
I saw that rumor on circling Twitter.
To be excited about it. He's been in the news.
He's been in the news. Shout out to Lane Johnson. Congratulations on your wedding. I saw pictures of Zach Ertz attending that wedding alongside Todd Harriman, who obviously we've met before, and Bo Allen and all of the offensive linemen. I would love it if Zach Ertz came back to play for the Eagles this year. That would make me so happy.
Feels like it's going to happen, doesn't it?
Oh, I'd love it. Who's your fifth wide receiver? Darius Cooper, Elijah Moore, Britton Covey?
Oh, God, you're throwing them at me now. I hope Cooper takes another step during camp. I do. We had so much excitement and we barely got to see him. I hope that he gets another shot. If not, someone's going to take a chance on him.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Shall we get into the controversy which has been surrounding the Eagles for the last few weeks, which is Diana Russini and breaking news. Diana Russini has resigned from her post at the New York Times, The Atlantic, after the bombshell rumors were floating around that she was seen holding hands, cuddling in jacuzzis, and probably a lot more with Mike Vrabel, the head coach of the New England Patriots. All year we had to hear the reports and the articles from Diana Russini about AJ Brown's move to the New England Patriots, and all the while she was maybe doing something that she shouldn't have done, fraternizing with the enemy, potentially cheating on her husband, mother of 2 young children. The story is horrendous. It really is, and we can only go on what's been reported thus far. And while she has said that resigning is just to not stoke the fire even more and to give the story any more oxygen to continue to burn, we all know that's not the case, Phil. Right? What are your thoughts here on? Before you do that, I did journalism. May mention that once or twice in this podcast. Really don't like how this is all played out. I have to say I do feel sorry for her and her family. Anything like this that's blown up in the media, it must be incredibly difficult. Thank God our kids are young enough not to be able to digest everything that's been going around in the media and memes and such and all of that kind of stuff. But what a bombshell. I mean, all year we're hearing from Diana Russini that AJ Brown is being traded, and all the while we realize she is close. We don't know how close with Mike Vrabel. What do you think about this, Phil? Where does your mind go? Breaking news, she's resigned. This is...
Yeah.
There was an investigation, we know, jump before you're pushed. We've all seen it happen in many organizations. This is wild.
Well, jump before you push, kind of get told to go because
Yeah.
it's not looking good. Who knows? I've taken a bit of an exception to this for a multitude of reasons
Right.
in all aspects of life. I don't like that sort of thing anyway, full
Me
stop.
too.
But I kind of went on a bit of a social media rabbit hole about it because I was like, there's something here. As soon as that came out, I was like, oh wow, this is huge
Well,
because,
you're always a
like you
big
said,
fan of the no smoke without fire.
it kind of just felt like a perfect fit. It's like now a lot of things make sense. So that's why it's blown up because it's not just oh, this person's been caught doing something unrelated but naughty. Clearly, they're not as good. They're not as their integrity isn't as good as we thought. Full stop. It's This is a situation where the only person, the one person who has been out there stoking a fires, and this isn't. This is like I say, this is tapping up in soccer terms at least, or in sporting
Right.
terms, tapping up at someone, having an external route into a player or a club to basically
Two
destabilize,
teams and a
push a player
player.
out. Two teams and a player and a reporter and everything like that to say basically get a deal done, which otherwise may not have been done because it's like out of respect for the teams. Like I've had it professionally. I've had people come in and poach people from under me, and it just I hate the respect. I'm like, talk to me. There's nothing to say that things aren't on the table. But anyway, that's the
Yeah,
personal
yeah.
side
No,
coming
I feel
into
you.
it. It's generally more about okay, so if she was one of two or three people pummeling the same information, saying the Pats, like because not even Schefter, not even Rappaport, not the other insiders have really been hammering. Schefter's come out and said, "Oh, the Rams were a lot more far along in potentially trading for AJ than the Pats were," as if it was some kind of like she's not the only one peddling the AJ Brown trade. It's still like to happen. It's like we know AJ wanted to leave. That's not in question.
Mhm,
It's about where
mhm.
and how. And how likely it is to bet. And we all thought the Patriots were likely, but it just seemed odd, before it all kicked off, saying like, "You seem really convinced this is happening," and it just seemed odd. So when this comes out, you look at it and you go, "Ah, right, okay, now this is bad because this is not based on anything. You're clearly part of something. Whether Vrabel is involved in it, whether you're just sort of doing it for some other reason, but it looks like tapping up. It smells like tapping up." And that's where I come from
Smells
when
like
you're
the
asking about
Patriots, doesn't
whether
it,
age.
Phil?
I said I think
Smells like the Patriots a little bit, right?
it's
Deflategate
taking it's
and
yeah, it's taking a leaf out of Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft's playbook over the last 2 decades, which is, there are ways and means to achieve things outside of the football field to make things work in your favor. And from it, taking myself out as an Eagles fan, you kind of respect the hustle because, like, you're determined to be successful, and sometimes in business, that's what it takes. You have to be a bit dirty to do these things. I think as an Eagles fan, that's where that's where I get angry because I'm like, hey, this is my club. Like, don't do that to the players and the team that I love because you are banging potentially the the head coach of the team that you're doing it. It's like if you're going to do it, don't don't be involved with them because it's like
yeah,
how
for
do people
sure.
do these things and think, well, no one's going to draw that conclusion. This is never going to come out in the light of day. Well, it might, and
Yeah.
if it does, it's going to destroy your
I
career.
have a problem with like her taking all the plaudits of all of these articles and like as if it's been some kind of deep, dark investigative research where she spent every waking
Mm,
hour finding these snippets of information through multiple sources and long hours and all sorts of things. Whereas
yeah,
really, she might have just been sat in a jacuzzi saying, oh, I'd really like AJ Brown here. Can you get another article on there and put more pressure on the Eagles to let him go? The media pressure on this to happen. Let AJ know where what's going on. Let everyone know that something's going on, like to force this trade through, which is exactly what has happened. And regardless, I mean, who knows whose idea this was? This could have been AJ Brown's idea, and he put them together. It could have been Dan Rossini's
but
idea. It could have been Vrabel's idea. It could have been Kraft's idea. It could have been everyone's idea. We don't know. The fact of the matter is,
yeah, you don't know how
um,
deep it goes.
but people have
There's a
gained from
second.
from a lack of integrity when it comes to reporting and a lack of and here's a question for you, Phil. What should happen to the New England Patriots? If an investigation is has been found out here, what should happen to the New England Patriots? I'm not joking here. They should lose their first round pick. And they absolutely should lose their first round pick. I don't think. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's the ballpark you'd be looking at, and I'm not saying that I want that to happen or I think that's going to happen. I think if it gets officially look league, then it's because you look at the Miami Dolphins losing their first round pick 3-4 years ago now for the Tom Brady, Mark Flores debacle, coaching debacle that involved Patriots personnel, ex-personnel as well. But I went down a little bit of a second rabbit hole as well.
I like your rabbit holes.
Well, don't have much to do these days. I was looking at when you go on algorithms, and I'm not saying I believe any of this, or not saying I believe any of it, but not saying I agree with any of it. But there is a strong disdain, not only for Diana Russini amongst Eagles fans, but for our own media. And I'm going to incorporate everyone into that. I'm not going to single out anyone because we all know who the Philly media is. But they were very, before, accusatory and kind of attacking Eagles fans for attacking Diana Russini before it came out, saying, why, I don't know, she's the best we know. And they were kind of, effusive praise. She's the best, she's professional. She does all this stuff. She doesn't follow the same line as insiders, regurgitating agents' comments and being just a mouthpiece for players and stuff like that. But since this has come out, they've all been really quiet. And I was like, it is interesting to note that it's great when Eagles fans are sort of getting pushed down because we are Eagles fans. We're angry. We're emotional. We come out with these things and we attack people, or we go for people that we the source of the blame and stuff. But no one's come out and said, oh, actually, fair enough, we were wrong, but anything like that. And it's kind of, it resonated with me a little bit that some people, some elements of Philly media can be a little bit elitist.
So I'll pour a little bit of cold water on that. And by the way, I don't disagree that something needs to be said. I don't disagree that that there needs to be statements made by the New York Times. There should be statements made by a number of Eagles commentators who have come out and said some of the things that you've just talked about. I don't disagree with that. However, up until now, and maybe we'll find out more in the news in the coming days and hours, in any organization, you're not allowed to say anything until an investigation is complete. So I'm not going to sit here and say that some people should have come out to say something since this has all come out. I would imagine that any individuals who have worked with this individual before or currently work in the same organization are not allowed to say anything for legality reasons. And I would imagine that even those who have been commenting in the past about her diligent supposed work and have now not said anything, I would imagine are also waiting to find out all of the facts before they come out and make comment on it. So I suppose I agree with you, but I suppose I'm not surprised no one said anything yet, if you know what I mean.
I think the point I'm making, as in I'm taking umbrage with, is the whole, when Eagles fans are chastised for coming out and saying this is wrong, something smells up here, and normally these people are far more in the know, and they were like, yeah, no, it's like, don't worry, I know this is fine, she's really professional, but no one's kind of come out. I'm not talking about commented on what's happened. I'm talking about, hey, yesterday you were calling me an idiot. No, I'm not an idiot. Be nice to have that acknowledgement that, hey, we were maybe quick to make the judgment that you guys were just attacking someone unfairly.
I don't think they're even. I don't think they would be allowed to say anything until the full facts have come out. They would have been told, don't admit any fault, blame, on your behalf until we know it all. I agree with you. I suppose I'm just, for anyone listening in or for anyone who's watching this on social media, don't be surprised that no one's come out to say, sorry, we were wrong, because they probably still don't know that they're definitely wrong, and it is all still conjecture and hearsay.
Well,
Even
her
with the
going doesn't
resignation,
help the situation, does it?
it doesn't help the situation, but it is all still conjecture and hearsay, and we don't know.
Yeah.
And no one is going to come out and say that they were wrong for saying something until they know definitively they have the facts. And I'm sure there are probably people who have said stuff who are shocked by the revelation that's come out, and probably did think that Diana Russini was an excellent, diligent, reporter with integrity, and are surprised. How many people have you known in your life who've come out and have cheated on their partner, and you thought they had a rosy relationship and thought, not many, to be honest, for me, but it happens in the world, right?
I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like, you get surprised by people who've been sacked from a job, and all of a sudden it turns out that they were a drug user, and then no one knew and had this perfect life, or someone's been cheating on someone, and
where is Vrabel's blaming this?
I was thinking that a minute ago. I was thinking, where is Vrabel's?
And it's been said, and I get it, like, especially, in a reporter's world, journalistic point of view, it's quite easy to probably investigate, look at it and go, yeah, no, you're gone. From an NFL team head coach point of view, far more complicated and far more reaching consequences. And maybe that does indicate that the reason that nothing has come out is because there's going to be an investigation. There could be potential far-reaching implications, but he should not get away with this. No, I mean, for all intents and purposes, from what I've seen online from Diana Russini, is that she's not exactly the most moralistic and friendly, kind person about the person that she was with. So it kind of feels fitting for her personality as it appears from what we've been exposed to in our work. Vrabel point of view, happily married. If he's off doing this sort of things, then he's got his own personal stuff to go through. But from like I said earlier, from a professional point of view, there should be an investigation, because if there's something to answer to, not because it might benefit the Eagles, because not necessarily that it will, because it might not even involve us, because no trade has happened, nothing has happened yet. So
I would be very surprised if Jeff Reader is not emailing Roger Goodell saying, "Where is the investigation into the tampering?"
Yeah, that's what you would hope.
I would be shocked if that hasn't happened. And those
whether they get penalised or not, as it's the Patriots, we know how that goes. But maybe they haven't got that kind of clout anymore.
But there's a lesson to everyone here, Phil, regardless of what the outcome is, right? There has been some shady business done here. There has been some untruths that have been told. There has been some secretive, creeping about, which has happened. There has more than likely been a lot of lies that have been told. Don't be a fucking coward, right? Don't be a coward and take the easy way out and cheat, lie, steal, beg, whatever it is you're doing. Don't be a coward. If you want to do something that's going to have a material effect on other people's lives, your family's lives, go and own up to it and do something about it before something like this happens. All right, that'll be my message to anyone listening here. Don't be a fucking coward.
Even if, well, I agree. Even if this trade goes ahead, it's going to be overshadowed by this one way or another. Because even if it goes ahead legitimately, people are going to be like, well, how much have the Eagles got because of the controversy, or was this pre-agreed and the Eagles are people of their words? They've gone, look, regardless of what's happened, we were happy to make this trade. It's going to sour both teams.
Two first go in on June 5th, and all of a sudden the league is like, well, hang on a second.
How we might finally get the capital that he's been asking for. It's like,
hey, I mean, I would never think this, but who's to say the Eagles didn't start all this to drum up the interest in AJ Brown?
Didn't send Diana Russini off to be the insider double agent.
Yeah, I'm kidding,
but there's comparisons as well to be drawn with the whole Jonathan Gannon Arizona Cardinals sort of thing, because that's what happened. Is essentially we suddenly got a draft pick out of nowhere in the 2024 NFL draft. I think it was. It was like a third or fourth rounder there for the Cardinals, and it was like, all right, we'll take that and no trade happens. But hey, in that impact, if the Eagles were asking for a first and a second and struggling to get that, they'll almost certainly get that from the Pats if they still wanted to have AJ after this, because Howie is not, by no means going to ignore and not use this as a negotiating factor in whatever happens, if it happens.
It's crazy, really, when you think about the story. But I guess nothing should surprise us anymore. Like, you look at the story about the NBA and the mafia and the gambling ring that's been going on. You look at Deflategate. You look at, the stuff that's happened with some of the black NFL coaches in the NFL. You look at the stuff that happened with the Raiders and the owner. Like, it's crazy. I mean, there's so much that we don't know, and there's so much that goes on, and there's so much craziness that happens in this big old corporate world that we reside in. All we can do is be good, be true to ourselves, and and be good, moralistic, upstanding people. But it's certainly interesting, and I'll tell you what, it's not the last you've heard of this. I can guarantee you that this is not the end of this story. This story has a few chapters left, and I don't think we got to the spiciest part of the story. I think there's going to be a lot more thread on the tires of this one. All right. Just want to quickly touch on the story again of Jalen Hurts before we wrap it up, Phil. I got a hard stop here this evening, US side. I did not get a chance to listen to the podcast yet. It's been a bit of a rough couple of weeks for me. So I'll say this, and then you can tell me what you think. Do you think Jalen Hurts is on a make it or break it year? Do you think if Jalen Hurts is a bad year this year, the Eagles will move on from him after this year, after everything you've heard and talked about in the last few weeks?
I don't necessarily think they're going to move on from him. I think it's a make or break year from a contract extension value point of view. If he has another bad year, I think the point I was making on the pod last time was more about, the considerations that other teams have given when they've paid quarterbacks from our perspective without having ever done anything. Tua, Kyler, players like that. The risk is there that if you pay a guy just because you ought to, because you've got a guy and he has been successful in the past, I'm not trying to downplay that in the sense that I'm just saying it's great that what he's done and he has been paid for that kind of at the moment, and he deserves to have that contract. But if he has 2 bad years, you kind of put the front office in a position where you can't just pay him and everyone goes, okay. There's going to be so much divisive opinion out there. It's like, well, he's had 2 bad years. Is it going to carry on? Can he get us to another Super Bowl? All the stuff that's going on now is going to be doubled because it just gets exponentially worse as, if he doesn't perform well. If he does perform well, then he'll probably get the extension of another $300 million from Jeffrey Lurie to carry on playing for the Philadelphia Eagles. I feel very much what they mean by make or break is that he hasn't been good enough yet again, and you can't tell me that you can't pay someone based on the fact that has a good year, bad year, good year, bad year. So this year is going to be a good year, so it's all going to be fine. You have
I was going to say, what is this year? What is this year? Do you believe that?
I do. I feel like they've put everything, every tool, like the whole, we covered when we touched on the coaching, and I sort of highlighted the coaching, and they're all previous experiences, all passing related. There's such an obvious shift and focus on the passing game, not specifically Jalen Hurts, but as a whole. The Eagles are clearly going to be shifting more because they want to put more focus on the passing game, because that will also help Saquon Barkley, Tank Bigsby, and Damian Pierce, hopefully. And I think it makes more sense to go in that direction. So they are doing everything they can to put Jalen Hurts in the position to succeed. And I think that's also with the view that if he doesn't succeed, they can have a clear conscience to say, hey, we've tried our best to make it work, but something's not right. It's been 2 years. We are not going to give you $300 million. We'll give you this. And if you don't want this, you can shop around and see if you can get it elsewhere. Someone may well pay it. And I feel like that's the situation we're in right now, is the Eagles are just trying to position themselves so that if things go well, they will happily pay him. There's no bad blood. It's purely business.
Are the Eagles going to pick up a quarterback in the first 4 rounds?
No. Not unless Tanner McKee is traded.
Okay. All right. Well, that will be a wrap for us for this week's British and Irish Eagles podcast. Phil, should we do a mock draft next week on the next pod? Should we do?
I think it makes sense to do that.
Did both of us do a mock draft and then take everyone through?
We'll do one together.
Our reasoning. All right.
Yeah. We'll jump on next week.
Well, it's 31 degrees here in Newtown, Bucks County, which is far too hot for my Irish skin. Pray for me for the rest of the week. I will leave you with this one thought for you all. mental health is a real challenge for a lot of men. And there's a lot of men that are listening to this podcast. If you are struggling in any way, shape, or form with mental health, addiction, panic, ADHD, anxiety, depression, whatever it is that's bothering you, reach out, speak to a friend, get help. Don't deal with it alone. And please make sure you reach out and get help. It's something that's close to all of our minds and close to all of our hearts. Don't be a martyr, and reach out and get help. I'll leave you all with that. We are the British and Irish Eagles. Look forward to doing the mock draft with you all next week. Phil, it's great to be back in the podcast seat. And have a great rest of the week, guys. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Go Birds.